Welcome to Cognitive Rampage Podcast. Hope you're taking care of you. Hope you're living your cognitive rampage. Oh, it feels so good to be back on the mic. I have traveled across the United States in like 3 days. It feels like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It feels like years since I've been able to put on my headphones, get in my zone, and talk to some amazing, amazing people. I am just completely, I don't know, I'm in my zone, I guess. I've missed it. I've missed it so terribly. It is so awesome to be back. First thing to tell you about is the second edition of Cognitive Rampage. The book, it is finished, submitted. It should be done and out in a few days, basically. A lot of revision to the first edition, but I've talked a lot about it, but it's a few days away from being available. Looking forward to that. Secondly, Dollar Mental Health Club. Go to dollarmentalhealthclub.com, changing the paradigm of mental health, trying to bring affordable mental training to anyone, anywhere, anytime. It's just $1 a minute, multiple trainers there. It's really easy. You just go to dollarmentalhealthclub.com, pick your time, pick your date, pick your trainer, and we call you. It's about giving you tools and strategies in the present to help keep your mental healthy. That's what it's all about. I love it. I'm fast forwarding through all these sponsors and anything else or whatever I want to talk about because I'm really excited to speak to today's guest. Stephen Sashen is the CEO of Xero Shoes. Stephen, I would just say, is not just the founder of Xero Shoes, right? I mean, you could just look up his bio if you go to xeroshoes.com and read through it. All-American gymnast, professional stand-up comic, cognitive psychologist, researcher, taught Tai Chi, Zen archery, which I want to know about. I want to learn more about that as well. He's the creator of Scriptware and industry standard word processing and film for TV writers, and probably 15,000 other things that aren't listed on a bio. But thanks for coming on the show, Stephen Sashen. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Oh man, I was I screwed up yesterday and woke up like, okay, you ready to do the show? And we were talking briefly, and you're like, no, you're an hour late, buddy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So traveling across the country in like 3 days was a heck of a trip. I did not plan for snow in New Mexico.
Well, here's the thing. So New Mexico, Colorado, we get kind of the same thing. So we had a massive snowstorm a day and a half ago, and it's going to be 65 degrees today.
See, I mean, Florida would be like that too, to where it would be like really hot, pour down rain for about 30 seconds, and then stop and the sun's out. And
well, I used to say Florida, the easiest job in Florida is to be a weatherman. 360 days a year, you go, it's going to be sunny, and then it's going to rain at about 4 o'clock. And then, 5 days of the year, you go, oh my God. That's about it.
That's it. Everyone run. There's a hurricane coming. Oh, wait, it went away. Never mind. It went to New Orleans. You're right, man. It probably is one of the easiest jobs. But I didn't plan for that. The other thing I didn't plan for is for a religious speaker to have sold out the entire hotel industry in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Oh my God, what a ride.
I rolled in at 2 o'clock in the morning. I would put 9-10 hours behind. And I'm like, all right, let's crash. And every hotel was booked except the Econo Lodge on 5th Street. And I went, so let me guess, it's kind of sketchy. And when the hotel lady goes and laughs at you, you're like, oh, shit. So they had one room and they had the jacuzzi suite.
Oh, man.
It literally had a heart-shaped tub. It had an old ghetto heart-shaped tub. It had a round bed. They left marijuana in the bed. There were some ashes on the side. The shower door had been removed. I'm like, this is crazy, man.
How much did it cost to make the bed vibrate?
Actually, it had little buttons on the side where it would shimmy like this. But if you did, it sounded like a drive-by shooting. It was terrible. Or maybe that was just outside. I don't really know. But it was an adventure. So next time I ever travel across the country via car and my puppy, I will plan for religious speakers selling out small towns in Texas and middle of the nowhere desert snowstorms. And I tell you, Stephen, driving in the snow is one of my biggest fears. Like I'm a Florida boy, and oh God. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's people like you that make people like me curse at people like you.
You're not wrong, man. I was that dude in the right lane going like, are those the other cars? It was like Talladega Nights. I'm like, are those the other cars? What are they doing? I can't even see. The people are driving by me like, I'm like, I'm praying, brother. I'm driving going, dear Lord, please get me out of this snow. I mean, I'm like, how can people drive at 80 right now? semis are passing me. I'm like, what's wrong with people?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and admittedly, there are different levels of snow drivers in Colorado as well. I had to drive up to Vail during a massive snowstorm, and yeah, I was being relatively aggressive, and there's still people just right by me. It's like, whoa. And every now and then, you have the great good fortune of seeing one of those 5 miles later just rolled over on the side of the road. That's the end of it.
There's times in Florida I've been like that too, do passages at Mach 7 and it's like
Right.
sleeting outside. I'm like, yeah, he'll be over there on the side of the road here soon.
Street justice. Bam.
I'm telling you, man, it's a whole different kind of road rampage. But I even took a picture, right? Because in the jacuzzi suite, the chain lock door wouldn't work. You could see it had been kicked in prior and the thing was cracked. And I'm thinking, all right, so I found me a 2x4 outside and I jammed the 2x4 underneath the doorknob and then stuck it, put one in the chamber and laid it next to me. And I'm like, all I need's a second, buddy.
Sleep well.
That's it. Man, I popped up 5 hours later like, whew, okay, we got to get the hell out of here. We're still alive. Let's go, man.
Before the pimp who actually lives here comes back.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think they even had heart-shaped tubs anymore. They even had the ashes where you could tell they were smoking the blunt or something where they just been and they were price gouging, man. They charged me $170 for that room.
Well, that's because you get the free vibrating bed. If they had to pay vibrating bed, it's only $150.
Seriously, man. I wanted to call them like, you price gouging sons of bitches. Man, they were killing me. So enough about my little adventure, man. Before we jump into all the things you do and all the unique things you've been through currently or most recently, where do you come from? What's the little Sashen story, if you will?
Well, when a mommy loves a daddy very much, then is that what you're going for? So egads, man. I mean, I grew up outside of DC, spent most of my life on the East Coast. When I was 32, 33, something like that, I escaped Manhattan and moved out to Colorado. So that was 24 years ago or something like that. And I've been out here ever since. I didn't know you could live somewhere where you just looked out your window and went, oh my God, that is beautiful. And I'm very much attached to it.
I love how you said escaped Manhattan.
Well, I was living there for 10 years and it was a great time. I mean, it was very important for me and I had a lot of fun. But once I realized I didn't need to live there, it was like, what? And then now that I've been away, going back it's intermittently fun. It's changed a lot. I mean, my favorite way of describing it is I have cousins who live in a neighborhood that for most of my life growing up was a really seedy neighborhood. There was the loft that they've been living in, a couple other lofts on their side of the street. The other side of the street was a parking lot, a fire station, and a Hell's Angels bar. And now it's, restaurant, gallery, restaurant, Whole Foods.
That's a heck of a change from Hell's Angels to Whole Foods.
I mean, and I miss it. I mean, I miss when there was neighborhoods that you really shouldn't hang out, and when now those neighborhoods all look like shopping malls that have just been kind of spread out. And there's certain neighborhoods in New York that are still relatively untouched, but yeah, I do feel like I sort of escaped in many ways.
What made you leave? I'm getting a little feedback.
Literally, it was just that I could. I'd been making a living doing stand-up comedy, and I developed the screenwriting software. I'd been making a living also acting and doing voiceover work. And once I developed the screenwriting software, I realized I had a full-time job that I could do from anywhere. So let's get out of Dodge and go somewhere. And I'd never been to Colorado before. I came out here and checked it out. And honestly, for the first few days, it's like, this is kind of sparse and brown. And then on the 5th day, I woke up and went, wow, this is kind of spacious and blue skies and gorgeous. And so here we are.
Oh, I just headed out. So the stand-up comedy is what kind of fueled you along the way and pushed you, is what I'm getting from. It was like kind of like a love.
That was my day job for a dozen years or 10 years. And then ironically, I came out here thinking that I was going to, completely have nothing to do with the comedy world or performing or entertainment at all. And then I ended up hosting a internationally syndicated comedy show that was shot out of here. So there was no escape, apparently.
That's what I hear. I have tried stand-up recently twice. And
why?
Well, just so I could get the shit boot out of me, really, and see how terrible it is. And frankly, I like uncomfortable. I was like, all right, let me just get in the middle of this shit. I know I'm gonna get booed to shit, And I tried it twice. I was not aware of my crowd or really where I was at, and I was dropping the wrong fucking jokes. And well, maybe they weren't even jokes. I don't even know. But apparently no one in the room thought they were at all.
I'll tell you, ironically, the only thing worse than going up for your first time and bombing is going up for your first time and doing really well, because then you think that, oh, I'm the shit. And the next time you go up, it's not going to go like that.
Yeah. Well, what's it mean when you bomb twice?
Nothing means anything. So I don't have an answer for that.
I love it, man. So you go out west, out to I love the idea of just going out west. And so you go out west, you have the software. What happens then?
Gads. To make a very long story very short, I've done a whole bunch of things. I've been an internet marketer since 1992, practically before there was an internet. That's what kind of drove the software company. At a certain point, I had done some real estate investing, and between that and some other businesses, internet businesses I helped start, it allowed my wife and I to retire from 2000 to 2009. Some of that was real estate based. In 2007, pardon that annoying phone that I can't turn off. In 2007, 6 or 7, we called our financial partner in this real estate stuff and said, we are seeing that anyone who can get can fog a mirror is getting a mortgage, and we were selling mortgages basically at the time. So I said, I have a sneaking suspicion that the market is topping and we should get out. He goes, funny you should say that. We have not been able to find any good deals. And so in 2006, we started getting out of real estate.
Smart man. Holy shit.
Lucky, crossed our fingers, but we didn't know how to really monetize that. We didn't know how to really capitalize on it. We just prevented ourselves from getting crushed, but we didn't, really get it. In fact, it was funny watching The Big Short. I walked out of that movie shaking because one of my fantasies in life is to be that kind of right about something. But I never realized that if you're going to be that right, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. It's going to cost you a lot of money to deal with the fact that it's going to take time till it pans out. And it might not pan out, and you might not have the psychology to deal with that along the way. And there's a lot of vested interests who will try and make reality bend to their whims. And in fact, to a certain extent, I'm sort of in that situation now with Xero Shoes. What we're doing about natural movement, about letting your feet move, bend, flex, move naturally, is completely antithetical to what footwear has been designed around and sold as since the early 70s. And the more successful we get, the more we see people who own these billion-dollar plus shoe companies making personal attacks against us. And I find it sort of amazing when someone who owns a multi-billion-dollar company leaves the room when I come in because they don't want to get into the conversation about natural movement versus what they're doing.
Yeah, I love how you pointed out being way ahead of the curve costs you money. I could automatically see the correlation in what you experienced on your appearance on Shark Tank versus what you were coming out and The Big Short, where the guy's basically hedging every bit of every money he could find and get on what everyone was looking at was crazy. And you walked out there; those sharks were biting at you. I loved how you were like this to him, and
it was actually we. It's not like we gave him the finger. Really, what it was that we were very clear about who we were, what we were doing, what we had, and what our numbers were. And so we walked in there having done a lot of research and knew here's where we say yes, here's where we say no. And so when Kevin made an offer that was so far outside of our yes range, it just barely even registered on our radar. And in fact, at one point, you don't see it on the show, Robert says, there's an offer on the table. And Lena and I looked at each other like, what's he talking about? It's like, oh, right, that. Yeah, okay, whatever. So we were just really, we knew what we had. We didn't go in there blind. We talked to a lot of people. We talked to bankers and VCs and private equity guys and people who sold shoe companies, people who bought shoe companies, people who ran shoe companies, and used all that data to inform. And we researched the show extensively. We watched every episode of the show. We watched every episode of Dragon's Den from Canada and from the UK. We didn't watch the Japanese ones because I don't speak Japanese. We read the autobiographies of all the sharks. And we walked in there about
a shark. I think you get. You walked in a shark in return, man. You walked in full of competence.
Well, and the other thing is that having been in and around the entertainment world for a long time, I'm not impressed by someone because they're famous. I know a lot of famous people. It's not a big deal. In certain places, I was a famous person, so it's like whatever. And I'll tell you the one thing they do on the show to make it easier for the people who are appearing, is that all the cameras are hidden. So you don't have cameras in your face, which makes people very self-conscious. So all you see is them, and it's black. The one thing that's weird is you walk out and it's like, oh my God, that's what everyone looks like on my television, except here they are live. And you have to, well, it's important to remind yourself they don't know you, and these are not your friends. So there's a certain kind of familiarity that happens when you watch people on television or even on the internet that is fake. And or it's one-sided at the very least. I mean, you feel like you know them, but they don't know who you are. And so that imbalance, you can't be too friendly, or you're going to say something stupid that you would say to a friend that you wouldn't want to say to an investor. Or it might not be that you're saying something stupid. You're saying something that you're saying it stupidly, perhaps in a way that's not going to be optimal. So it's an interesting thing. But I mean, I was so excited to walk out there and get it going. Like, let's have some fun.
It looked like it, man. You walked out there competent. You walked out there ready to go in sharks. Those are great tips for anybody, I think, that's maybe looking to sit down with a VC or looking to sit down with an investor.
Well, here's another one then. So the biggest one for us, the biggest advantage we have other than knowing our numbers inside out, backwards, left, and right, is that I in particular, and I kind of trained Lena as much as I could to be completely uninsultable. So there's nothing you can say to me that, no matter how insulting it sounds, that I find actually insulting, because it's either something that's totally not true, so who cares, or it's something that I've thought and I wished that you didn't think too, or it's something that I didn't think that if I look, maybe even metaphorically, I can go, oh yeah, it makes sense. So there's no need to be defensive. Like if someone says, well, Kevin made some comment, you're just crazy, delusional entrepreneurs. Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to argue that one. So all entrepreneurs are crazy and delusional to a certain extent. And we have that thought on a regular basis that what we're doing is nuts, and cross your fingers. But there's nothing that's ever started without that. So when he said that, that was my response. Maybe. I mean, I don't think so, but totally could be right.
Yeah. And I would say the years of stand-up probably helped, the fact that you could go out and take shots like that.
Yeah, I'm there's nothing anyone can say that, especially this is going to sound ironic, in a high pressure situation, it's easier. It's easier to get focused and, know what the limits of what you do and don't want to say are. So in a high pressure situation, there's nothing anyone can say that's going to throw me in a way that's problematic. I mean, I've just been through too much.
Yeah, I could see the stoicness, man. And for sure, I think it's even a tactic of them too, is to be like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about, trying to get you rattled and jammed up to where you do make an offer there, or take an offer that may not be in your best interest.
That's one of the goals, is to shake you up, because that's good television. I mean, I coached a guy who was going to be on the show. He had a product that was not in any way unique. It could be easily copied. It was inexpensive. He had made no money. He had no business. He was going to get eaten alive and didn't know it. And I said, so look, here's the deal. I'll tell you what to do, and you'll still make $1 million even if you get eaten alive. And that is, every time the sharks say something that you think is critical, you need to very quickly be able to find a way to agree with them, because everything they say is true. You don't know anything about business. It's a bad idea, not proprietary. Everything they're going to say is true. So there's nothing for you to disagree with technically. So rather than arguing, agree, and just keep saying things like this. You're absolutely right. I'm just a guy who, during his last semester of college, when he should have been out partying, invented a product that solves a problem for me, my family, and 6.5 million other people. And I'm here to get your help to get it to them. If you can just keep saying variations of that over and over, you'll be a millionaire. Now, sadly, he didn't end up on the show, but that's the attitude you've got to take in those situations, is
humility.
People are just giving you information. They're giving you their opinions. They may be right. They may be wrong. But you don't want to argue with someone over their opinion. That's never going to end well.
I would agree. How much of that in your own from Xero Shoes did you face, kind of as you were growing the company, walking into it and all?
Well, we get it all the time from, particularly we get it from people who talk to us about investing in the company. So the perfect example, we're actually doing an equity crowdfunding raise starting next week. And maybe a week and a half ago, I had back-to-back emails. One was from someone saying, your valuation is ridiculous. I don't know how you justify that. And the next email was from someone else going, wow, I can't believe how low your valuation is. So we get it all the time. We're in this weird phase right now where banks say to us, well, you don't have any collateral. It's like, well, no, we own a company, but we've been paying off the debt that we have without a problem. So, what's the big deal? And then private equity and venture capitalists say, well, you're not making quite enough money yet. And we go, well, but we will be at that point in about 6 months, the point you're talking about, in about 6 months or a year, arguably. At least that's what's in our projections. And so if we get there without you, we don't kind of need you. And then the strategic partners, they say, well, you haven't really proven the concept yet. It's like, wait, we've sold 160, 170,000 pairs of shoes to people who've either only seen them on other people's feet or on the internet. So that's unheard of in this space. And so we hear it all the time, and we don't care. I mean, I have it here. I'll be somewhat I'll be very candid and candid and unlanguage bound. I have a psychological condition. I've been diagnosed with a case of the go fuck yourselves. And so when someone tells me no for a reason that I think is absurd, it's like, yeah, you just kicked up my thing here. I'm going to have to prove that you're wrong.
Yeah, I tend to have that same go fuck yourself issue when all the licensing boards say you have to do this for 2 years, then you become this, we only pay you this is how you practice. I thought, you know what? No, you don't piss me off now. And that's where Dollar Mental Health Club came from. When I'm like, fuck you insurance companies, fuck you licensing boards, we're going to find a way. I love that. And my next question before you answer with the go fuck yourselves was, what keeps you moving? What keeps you pushing in those times where that entrepreneur reality sometimes sets in?
Yeah, that's not an issue of mine. My only issue, not an issue. The only thing I've noticed is that I have this sort of almost rhythmical something where some days I just get more done than I know what to do with. And then the next day I'm shot, and I may as well sit around playing Tetris all day, going back in time to do that. So there's this sort of ebb and flow about what I can get done. But in terms of, motivation, I got bills to pay, man. I got a company to build. When people say, how do you deal with burnout? I go, burnout, I got too much shit to do to be burned out. So I literally don't get that. Now, that said, the things that interest, excite, motivate me, kind of prop up what we're doing is we get testimonials from our customers every day about how our products have changed their lives. That keeps you going. And on the flip side, we've got rent to pay and lights to keep on and people that are working here. So there's that. Now that we're doing this crowdfunding raise, we've got financial goals that we're trying to meet. So there's that. I'm 54, almost 55 years old, and this is our entrepreneurial retirement plan. So I'm building for that. I mean, there's now, and all of this, best way I can say this is couched with this other thing that is, this could all blow up tomorrow. I mean, there's an infinite number of things that could happen in the world where all of this could just fall apart. And if it does, I've picked up a lot of homeless guys as hitchhikers. They tell me where to get food and shelter and healthcare. So I'm okay.
I love the silver lining approach, man. I really do. And I think somewhat of being aware of your ebb and flow, the way that you work and move has got to be somewhat, I don't know, helpful, right? Helpful in a way to know how you work, how you move.
Well, I don't beat myself up when it's not happening. So I know that when I've got to do creative stuff, if I got to write copy for something or catalog copy, anything, there's a certain, I can't force it to happen. And actually, it's not true. I can't force it to happen, but if it's a deadline, it'll happen. I try to avoid having it happen, at the last second, because I'm not the most meticulous of people. So sometimes typos occur and things like that. But I can't make it happen when it's not happening. And when it does happen, then I just go for the ride. So I'm kind of, for certain creative projects, I'm kind of always on the lookout for that moment when I have a doorway in to go, and now. And other things, I just got to get them done during the day. I'm looking at my whiteboard with a list of things I've got to get done during the day.
I'm telling you, but I have a whiteboard myself sitting right across from me, and I'm like the guy from Beautiful Mind on this thing all the time.
Oh man, if you could see this is after I took pictures of the whole thing, erased it, and started all over. Or my office. If something is not right in my field of view, it doesn't exist. So I've got a lot of piles of things.
Yeah, there's something to whiteboards and people like yourselves, I think, that just work out. I don't know, there's something to it.
This is the 6-foot long corkboard that I haven't hung up yet for all the things that I had a mistake of taping to my whiteboard. So,
oh man, to kind of go left and into it, where did the inspiration for Xero Shoes come from? Where did that seed?
About 5,000 years ago, people figured this out. So for me, when I was 47, something like that, 45? No, 45. So when I was 45, 2007, I got back into sprinting after a 30-year break and was getting injured pretty much constantly. As soon as I'd get over an injury, I'd have about a week and then I'd get another one. And that went on for a couple of years. A friend of mine suggested that I try taking off my shoes and running barefoot, see if you learn anything. And I did. What I found immediately was how my stride was leading to some problems that were showing up as muscle pulls and tears and things on a regular basis. And when you run that way barefoot, it hurts. And so to find out how to run barefoot in a way that's pleasant and enjoyable and fun, my form changed. And so I wanted that experience as often as I could have it. And so I went back 5,000 years, found a sandal design that people have been using for a long time, came up with a couple of tweaks and improvements to it. Found some rubber, found some rope from Home Depot, started making sandals for me and a couple of other people. And that more people asked. And finally, a guy says, I'm writing a book on barefoot running, and I'll put your little hobby of making sandals in my book if you had a website and treated this like a business. So I rush home and pitch the idea to my wife, who tells me it's a really stupid idea and it won't make any money. And it's a distraction from the other things that we were just getting started. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. And she goes to bed around 9 or so. And by 10, I had a website, and it just took off. I said, I think I can own the keywords that we need within a couple of months, because everyone who's ranking right now is there by accident. And that's what happened. Within a few months, I really kind of dominated the search engines, and that it took off. What went from, hey, maybe this will be a car payment, became, hey, it's our full-time job, to, hey, this could be our retirement plan within about a 6-month window. It all, we really lucked out and caught a wave and lucked out in that Lena and I are really good. My wife, we're really good partners. We'd never known that. I like to say I'm the guy who builds the car and puts the gas in it. She's the one who makes sure there's tires on it and keeps it on the road. And we do that really well. And then we've met amazing people along the way, just really, again, luck, and then some additional luck, who are working with us and helping tremendously.
Yeah, I love the humility about saying luck, right? Because a lot of people, you hear them, I'm self-made, right?
Oh, hold on. Let's be clear. I am far from humble. What I am when it comes to that is a realist. I mean, I recognize the number of things that are allowing us to be in the situation we're in today. I'm not even going to use the word success or any of that. I mean, who knows what'll happen tomorrow? But what's gotten us here today, when I look at the number of factors over which I have zero control that have led to this, there's no other conclusion then this is massively luck. And then if you start looking into this, you find, I just saw this the other day on some YouTube video, some big book like Good to Great or something. I can't remember. One of the books that was about, here's how you build great companies. And it featured like 20 companies, and more than half of them are out of business. So everything, all this business success crap is usually just hindsight bias and overemphasizing your own role. Look, if you want to do something fun, talk to people who started and had businesses that have done this. Pardon me. Who've had success, and then whatever the opposite of that is, and vice versa. And instead of asking them, how'd you become a success, which they'll tell you about how great they are mostly, ask them, if you had to go from, like $100,000 a day to zero, what would you teach? How would you do that? And you get a much more interesting answer about being overextended, about not paying attention to your competition, about ignoring macroeconomic factors, about having too many eggs in one basket, about things that you can all pay attention to. Now, can you prevent those? Probably not, but what the risk is going in. But that's much more educational than hearing someone's story about how it's all because of them, which is just patently false.
Oh, woo, that's a breath of fresh air to hear, man. God, there's so many motivation. I like how you quoted it, two speakers. They talk like that. It's
all of them.
Be me, follow what I do. I drop a couple cool F-bombs, so aren't I awesome? And then you can be successful. I'm like, that's your stick, man. Your stick is you.
Well, look, here's the biggest thing. If those guys were able to deliver what they say they can deliver, there'd be an almost infinite number of clones of them. But there aren't. There's only one Tony Robbins, because Tony Robbins is a genetic freak. And I don't mean, by being, I don't mean that in the genetic freaky way. I mean, he, in the same way, look, for men over the age of 50, it's highly probable that I'm the fastest Jew in the world. Not personal, just a weird combination of genetics. So, but because of that, I'm a genetic freak. Not a lot of fast Jews in the world. So, so same thing, those guys, they have the whatever personality it takes to do whatever that job is, which is usually more about being a motivational person than it is offering an actual product to actual human beings that actually provides value. It's a very different thing. And then, the number of them that end up having some massive financial, sexual, something scandal is let's call it non-insignificant. Because often when someone is presenting that one aspect of their personality, it's because they're trying to run away from some other aspect that they're not crazy about. People who are really, really hyper confident are often really insecure. I'm not saying anything about our current president.
Oh, I would directly say that. Yeah, I get the sarcasm. I love it. And I'm circling back to the engineer in you, right? The one that builds the engine and gets it going. I think that is such the entrepreneur drive that's missing a lot in today's world, as we see this hop on the social media thing, try to just catch the viral thing. And what you did was you saw a problem in your own life and then found a way to fix it.
Look, I'm jealous of these people who get on social media and become fake famous and make a fortune out of it. That seems like a way easier gig than what we're doing. But what we're doing is building a sustainable business. We're building something that could be a real big deal. And that's a whole different game. And, I meet all these young people, typically men actually, who have this idea of doing a lifestyle business where they've outsourced everything to other people, and all they're doing is one aspect of the biz, and it takes them 3 hours a day or whatever the hell it is. And at a certain point, every one of them has gone, oh, wow. If I'm going to turn this into an actual business, I need to bring that stuff back in house and hire employees and raise capital and and turn it into a real business. I was in the room with a couple of guys who promote businesses when they confessed that they work 100-hour weeks. So, if you're going to build a real business, it takes real work. And then you're going to bump into someone for whom, they have some other story, but they're the exceptions. They are not. You can't bank on being a genetic freak.
Yeah, it seems like overnight, everyone was a life coach. Everyone had a lifestyle design.
Yeah.
It's like there was a time I DJ'd, and when you really had to DJ, when there was vinyl records, you had to match them up, and there was a whole slew of us. And then all of a sudden, the CDJ thing came out where you just hit play, you match numbers, and there were fucking DJs everywhere. And I quit after that. I'm like, it's over. I'm done. And overnight, we have these live my lifestyle. Here's my quote. Here's what I said. It's just, I don't know what happened. Like, everyone took this motivational lifestyle design pill and selling themselves. I love this one. They all have their little picture on the front. It's this serious staring at nothing picture. I'm like, well, I get it, man. Like, holy shit. If you look at my videos and stuff, half the time I forget to put a fucking shirt on. It's nothing worth looking at. My beard's everywhere. I could give a shit at how I'm looking. I'm like, now maybe I should be doing a little more production on my shit.
It's an interesting debate, actually. For some people, professionalism feels better. For some people, more authentic feels better. So it just depends on, there's no right or wrong way to do this. That's the bottom line. There is no set path that leads reliably from here to there. And but as human beings, we want that. We are wired to look for that. We've got a million years of evolution to look for, how do I get that thing that I want to be seemingly successful? Whether that's getting food, getting shelter, getting laid, getting whatever it is, we're wired to look for the patterns that we think will lead to what we want. The problem is we're really, really bad at it. We can't remember how bad we are at it. And we forget that even if we get most of the things that we need now, it won't actually give us what we want. So we think that if we get fill in the blank, we will become happy when there's zero evidence for that whatsoever. And so we get caught in this little trap of believing that there is a way, because someone says, well, I can tell you how to get there. And all you have to do is pay $5,000 and sit with me in a musty hotel room for 2 days, and I'll tell you how to get there. And then if you pay enough money, get people to do things like, yay, and put their fist through a pine board that you could snap like a twig, they'll feel something, and then they'll assume that there's some connection between that feeling and then the inevitable steps and missteps and blocked steps and faster steps and slides and chutes and ladders. You spend more time trying to figure out how to do the path than just taking the next step that shows up every minute of every day.
Oh man, you laying them rampages out, man. I get a lot of questions about how to do a podcast, what you're supposed to do, and my all I do
Get
is
a
say,
microphone.
that's it. Do it. Just fucking do it. And some people, well, I was thinking about doing videos, and I'm like, just turn the fucker on and go. The more I tried to plan this podcast, the more I fucked it up, the more I hated it, the more I was like, all right, this is the next maneuver. Then we'll get strategic move here. And then I would be like, wait, what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
I'm just do it. Just fucking do it and go. And we get caught up in that.
Yeah, you'll find, things become obvious at certain points. And you decide if you're going to make that move or not. But things become obvious. You just got to take the next step.
And you did that. I'm going to go back to the shoes of being the engineer to just solving a problem. You had your own personal problem. You were a runner already, right? You had a history of running.
Yeah, basically. I mean, again, I hadn't really done any for 30 years, but when I started doing Xero Shoes, what came out of being a sprinter again and wanting to have that natural movement experience, which was feeling so clearly helpful for me, and wanting to still be able to get into a restaurant if they said no shoes, no service.
It actually reached me a lot. I went through this an era before I found. There's a great friend of mine, Naudi Aguilar. He founded Functional Patterns and biomechanic guy. I love that dude. He's a great brother of mine. And I was 240 ex linebacker football player guy, lifting weights, macho man, and always wearing Nikes and shit. Always, that was my shit. White Nikes, whatever. And all of a sudden, I started waking up with what's the foot thing? Oh, damn! Now it's
well, it could be plantar fasciitis.
Plantar fasciitis. I mean, it was terrible. I was in pain. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And the first thing I did is I started the biomechanics with what he was doing, which helped a lot of things. I changed what I was eating. I dropped like 60 pounds in 3 months. But then I switched to I'm from the hood. I don't hide that from anybody. And Dickies and Chucks is what I grew up wearing. And so I went back to my Chucks. I threw my Chuck Taylors back on and tried to walk through it, if you will, for a while.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I didn't have plantar fasciitis. I had this flat foot. Then I started doing research from guys like you that were putting out about what these high end sole shoes were doing and cheating your biomechanics. And I was like, my fucking mind blew. I was like, what the shit?
Well, it's only because we've been living for 40 something years with shoe companies telling us you need support, you need arch support, you need heel control, you need motion control, you need these big. So it's been long enough that most people have grown up in that message and don't know there's another message or another way until you say to them, well, when you were a kid, did you run around barefoot? And they go, oh yeah, all the time. I said, did you like that? They go, yeah, all the time. I said, did you have any problems? No. I said, well, when did you start having problems? Oh, well, once I got those shoes, hey, wait a minute. It's not none of this is rocket science. Here's all the science you need to know. So you have a quarter of the bones and joints of your entire body are in your feet and ankles. You have more nerve endings on the sole of your feet than anywhere but your fingertips and your lips. This is, as I love saying, not a fucking accident. Okay. So you need that information. You need the info coming from the sensations to go up to your brain to then go back down to tell your feet what to do. And it's actually even faster. Some of those nerves go straight up to the bottom of your spine and come right back down as reflexes. Suffice it to say, we're built to feel the world and adjust accordingly. We're built to move and bend and flex and handle different surfaces and different terrains and whatever we need. We don't need, massive giant calluses and whatnot to do that. That's a whole other thing. But what you need is flexible and responsive and sensitive. And anything that stops you from moving and stops you from feeling is interrupting this amazing feedback mechanism that you have to be able to move and balance and be agile and feel good, because having your bare feet. Here's a weird thing. Sweet things don't taste good because they're sweet. Sweet things taste good because we evolved along with those things, so that if that thing is good for us, we evolve in a way that we like the taste of it. So same thing, you get your feet out on the grass, it feels good because that's one of those things that tells your brain, hey, this is good for you for various reasons. And so it feels good. It's a backwards thing about causality, but suffice it to say, you get out there, even on surfaces that are not necessarily pleasant, they stimulate you and your brain, and there's something to it. I'm actually playing with some insoles right now that are really pointy, and for a while, it can hurt a little bit, and then you start changing the way you walk, and then you take them off, and you feel that your feet are doing a whole different thing because they got all this extra stimulation. So Anyway, but the simple thing is feet are meant to bend and flex and move and feel, and you want things that let you do that as much as possible. So be barefoot whenever you can, and when you're not barefoot, be as close to barefoot as you can, and that's what we make.
Oh, I love it. And, you know, even Dr. Jack Cruz, guy,
Oh, sure.
neurosurgeon behind Light. Yeah, he's been on the show. He'll be on this Saturday again. But, you know, he's talking about every morning, walk out front barefoot, stand in the grass, where a lot of our absorbers of electrons are in our feet as well.
I am, let's just say, more than iffy about the whole electrochemical thing for a number of reasons. But nonetheless, you don't even need the whole electron thing answer. It feels good. And feeling good is a neurological phenomenon. You're getting a whole bunch of neurotransmitters that make you feel good, and they're not localized. It's not like there's a little thing for your foot that says, hey, this feels good. When you get that good feeling, it has global effects for your brain. And so that's why eating things that taste good can have both positive and negative effects, because there's a global effect on the brain. So the electron thing is, let's just say that if it were as simple as people make it, no one in the third world and no pets would ever get any diseases, and everyone who's ever struck by lightning would explode like a tree, because what happens with your skin is highly resistant to electricity, which is why if you get struck by lightning, it passes through down to the ground, instead of what happens to a tree, where it goes through, heats up all the water, and makes the thing explode. So you're supposed to get an electrical charge on your skin. You can neutralize it, but it's supposed to be there. Because if it wasn't there, you'd be having this stuff going into your body in unpleasant ways. More, the whole free radical idea. Free radicals are neutralized by ions, not electrons. So you can put electricity through your body all day long. It doesn't do anything to free radicals.
Interesting, man. Little left side note there. I appreciate that, man.
There's people who will be mad at me because I said that.
Let it be. It doesn't matter, right? You got a case of the go fuck yourselves, right?
Well, I try not to be obnoxious for no reason. And I know a lot of people believe in this idea, and you know, it's suffice it to say, what I look for, my whole reason for whatever, is looking for the simplest answer without any mythology attached to it. And the whole thing about electrons and all of that, there's a lot of mythology attached to it that's really easy to look at. Like, again, the simple thing is, based on that idea, people in the third world should be healthy.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I'll leave the guy's name out, but I almost had a guest on recently, and I was trying to watch, and I figured out he was one of the founder people of the flat Earth theory idea. And as I'm listening, man, I could not connect one logical fucking thought. I'm like, please, I'm open here. I'm trying to be liquid. I'm like, all right, sell me. And I just couldn't, man. And so for me, I couldn't bring him on and be like, let me help spew this stuff, forward. But I'll get off the negative stuff, man.
You know, I want to come back to something, because it's interesting. Yeah. People are able and willing to hold motivated beliefs that they need to hold for some reason, with amazing facility. And we deal with this on a regular basis. When people say to us things like, I have flat feet or high arches, therefore I need support. It's like, according to whom? Where's the evidence?
Yeah.
We take a look at the evidence and we
talk
see
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You need to move and strengthen your foot, regardless of what the arch height is, which is predominantly genetically determined. But, you know, people can say things that, if you don't look carefully, make sense. And as soon as you look carefully, you go, wait a minute. So one of our competing companies, a multi-billion-dollar company, does a whole campaign showing how if you bounce a steel ball off the foam they use in their shoes, look how high it bounces compared to the other foam. A, no one uses that other foam because it's crap. B, if you want the steel ball to bounce really high, bounce it off a steel plate. That's what gives you the most energy return. And there's no such thing as energy return. It's all just how much does it suck. And so what happens when you bounce the steel ball off a steel plate is the little bit of heat and the sound that you hear is the only thing that is taking anything away from that force coming back 100%. But anything else is worse than that. So if by their logic, your shoes should be immobile steel plates.
Ooh. And what does that really have to do with the damn shoe anyway, that a steel ball bounces off of something?
Well, again, it's showing how much energy return you get. Now, I'm actually going to do an experiment. I realized I could do this the other day, and I've got to find the materials, where I take two balls of different masses, different weights, is the easiest way of saying it, and I bounce them off of one surface where the lighter ball bounces higher, and then I change surfaces, and the heavier ball will bounce higher. So your question is, what is it about the foam is really the bigger question. And more foam, the whole point of this is showing foam is tuned, if you will, to weight and speed. And if you're not that weight and speed, you're SOL. And so again, if you look at it without thinking, you go, wow, that thing bounces better. That must be good. Once you start thinking, you go, hold on, that just falls apart in like 5 different ways.
It's true. I mean, you're talking a lot. I noticed also your cognitive researcher, et cetera, is that we hold on to those concrete beliefs based on what we want to believe. And we'll just, that cognitive dissonance just goes, well, Nikes are best for me,
Let's make that even simpler. We're designed to come up with ideas and then have them lock in place, because that's the most energy efficient thing to do. Back when the decisions were simpler, is that food or am I food to it? And that was most of them. Am I going to be able to sleep with that one or not? Do I have to fight that one or not? I mean, those are like the majority of the decisions. Then coming up with a heuristic, coming up with some easy belief, if you will. You needed to come up with one fast, because if you had to figure out every time, is that one food or am I food? You're food. So I think the humans that lived were the ones who came to snap decisions faster than others. They didn't have to be right. They just had to be fast. And so we're wired to come up with fast decisions. It's very energy inefficient to take one of those decisions that happened spontaneously. We didn't make ourselves think it, and then re-examine it and tear it apart and come up with a new one. And so if you had to do that every time, it would be even worse. So I'll tell you the funniest story that I can think of about how hard it is to shake a false belief. I was out in San Diego a month ago. There was a big internet marketing thing going on, and I was going to hook up with some friends. And I text one of my friends. I said, "What are you guys up to?" And he goes, "Hey, we're going to the strip club. Why don't you come with?" It's like, that's not my thing. So I'm going, all right, but how do I say that in a way that doesn't make me sound like a real wimp or something? I wanted to kind of keep my whatever in their mind. Some thoughts they had about me, and while backing out of this thing. And this conversation goes on and on as they're trying to talk me into going to the strip club and all the reason to go. And I'm saying, yeah, I can't do it. After about 20 minutes of this, the guy goes, "Dude, I'm messing with you. You got a wrong number." Okay. And he says, "Sorry about that." I said, "Look, if it was me, I probably would have done the same. So no complaints. But here's the kicker. Here's the belief thing. So I just had this whole thing that these friends of mine were trying to entice me to go to a strip club. Then I find out it's basically a practical joke and a wrong number. To this day, whenever I talk to them, I have to remind myself they were not the guys who wanted me to go to the strip club. It is a deliberate, conscious thing where I have to remove the opinion that I have of them from my mind, because it's patently false. It's still rolling around in there and could arguably affect the way I see these guys. And there's zero connection to reality. That's how brains work.
I think that's right on, man. Is this why association too, right? When I want to remember 200 people's names and I basically associate it with something, then I can link it together.
Yeah. And we're wired to make these connections. And once we make them, it's really hard to unmake them. It's a physiological phenomenon, and sometimes takes a bunch of repetition to do that. Look, when I first met my wife, she told me the myriad ways that she was not interested in me. When we first got together, we were friends we knew each other for a while, became friends for a while, then we became a couple. To this day, 20 something years later, sometimes I remember that, and I literally have to remind myself, this is the woman that I've just spent the last 20 years with. That thing that she was saying then is not true, but it still shows up in your brain. I was at my 30th high school reunion. There were people who clearly had opinions about me that were 30 years old, or some of them even older. And, have I changed or not? I don't know. But it was amazing watching that they clearly had thoughts about me from 30 years earlier that they had no interest in questioning, which I thought was hysterical, because that's why I went, was like, I want to see who these people have become. Other people did not have that thought.
Yeah, trust me, I get it. When they knew the Mike Lowry, as I used to be called back in the day, and then they say, like, you have a book out? Who the fuck are you? This is a dude that rolled blunts left-handed, carried his pistol, and and they're like, now you're talking, well, I don't even know the words you just said, man. Like, right. And I'm like, me either. I don't know how I got here. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll text you randomly in like 2 months if you want to go to a strip club or not. And then from a new number, and then that way I can save those friends from being the strip club guys, and I'll be the cognitive rampage guy who fucked with me a couple months later.
I like it. Well, look, here's my strip club thing. It's like, if you're on a diet, why would you hang out in a candy store?
Right. That's just not my thing, man.
Yeah, I never got that. It's not interesting.
It's just not for me, man. I don't like popcorn that much anyway. You know what I mean? They give that shit away, man. And a $17 beer, man. No, I'm good. I'm way good, man. Going back kind of to the shoes, when you talked about
Sure.
being barefoot, man, it took me back because I was slash country slash ghetto. That's kind of where you were. And then kind of
Yeah.
middle of the road as my parents became a little more successful in their jobs. Yeah. And I just remember leaving the house with no shoes, running down dirt roads and playing in stickers and thorns and
Yeah.
shit didn't matter, man. And I
Yeah.
felt good. I felt better. I mean, I remember mom saying, put your shoes on. I'm like, ah. And she'd lock the door. Now I'm stuck on hose water all day, but that was a time that I remember. And we truly get hit with such marketing. I mean, LeBron James is wearing, well, in my time, it was Jordan wearing the shoes, right?
Yeah.
And had to get the Jordans. And I remember feet hurting even then, even when I played football in cleats, all that whole thing. It's like we forget.
And again, and what we forget is simple things. If you break your arm, you put it in a cast, it's immobilized, it comes out weaker later. And then you've either got to keep supporting it or you've got to strengthen it again. Why would it be any different with shoes? You immobilize your foot, it's not going to get better. When is weaker ever better?
I love that idea because it's also how they talk about braces. They wear those padded braces on your knees, and you wear that, then you overemphasize another muscle group, which eventually gets hurt because it's working overtime for you.
Here's one. You want to it won't eliminate concussions, but if you want to drop the concussion rate of NFL football players down as close to zero as you're ever going to get it, take off your helmet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at the rugby thing. I'm way on it. You're not going to use your fucking head. You're going to try to avoid hitting your head.
Same thing.
And the same thing with MMA. They're talking about just get rid of the gloves. The gloves make it worse. They're protecting your hand, but I'm taking 60 hits in my face a fight.
When you've got shoes on, you can land on the ground in a way that is detrimental to your entire body. When you try and do that same gait pattern without shoes, it hurts so much that you either simply stop or you find another way. And again, most people, the idea of learning a new movement pattern is challenging. So you've got to give them cues and ways of dealing with that. It's not rocket science, though. What I say for the idea of barefoot running, find a good, smooth, hard surface, take off your shoes, go for a very short run, like 30 seconds. If it hurts, wait till you feel better and then try it again and do something different till you're having fun. Dude, that's the gauge.
I love
this whole idea of no pain, no gain, completely antithetical to the whole natural movement thing. If it hurts in a way that is pain, not kind of, working hard, you're probably doing something wrong. And then don't look at Olympic athletes, because these guys they're willing to do anything they can to win the gold medal, and they're washed up by the time, you're just getting started. So the fact that some 105-pound, 5'2" Kenyan guy is doing fill in the blank is irrelevant if you're not a 5'2", 100-pound Kenyan guy who can run a marathon in slightly over 2 hours.
Oh, so right on, man. I kind of also want to point out, I'm sure Natalie would probably back this up too, is the idea when I look at the way, say, the tennis shoe typically makes you sit bulldog, like an old 1970s Nova, right? You're sitting all jacked up, and I can only imagine what that does to the spine as you're kind of jacked forward. It's almost like you're wearing a mini high heel the whole time.
It's exactly what it is. And yeah, it's there, and there's just no evidence that it's good for you. This is the thing. When people say to me, well, where's the proof that barefoot is better? I go, no. Shoe companies have had 45 years to show you that what they do is demonstrably better for you. If you could make a shoe that you could prove was better than some other shoe, that is literally worth billions of dollars. Got it. All they do is they go, hey, here's our new thing with magic new technology. And then they make up something like bouncing the balls off the foam, and you go, oh, okay. And then, you walk into a store and some 23-year-old guy who you think knows something, but all he knows is what the salesperson taught him to say, tells you, oh, get on this treadmill and we'll evaluate you or whatever. And then you have to get this shoe for the blah, 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 blah. And then you buy that shoe and you find that maybe you're lucky enough and it works. But if you look on a percentage basis, that doesn't work for most people, which is why the shoe industry just keeps selling. And then add to that the whole planned obsolescence thing, where they use components that break down and fall apart so that you have to buy a new shoe sooner rather than later. Put it all together, and it's not killing people the way cigarette smoking killed people, but in my humble opinion, which is not, it's a scam.
I would agree. This is one of the rampages I go on when I see people with tennis shoes and talking about it. I mean, some of the things I cover. I've also learned that a lot of hip injuries take place because you have to lift your knee up further and step farther out because you got a 2-inch foam gap underneath your heel.
I'm not sure about that. That would seem unlikely to me just because that's about motion. But what I can imagine and what is true is this: if you have padding under your heel, you're going to try and use the padding, just what your brain makes you do. It's kind of crazy because there's no reason for that. And you almost have to, because you can't land with your foot underneath you when you have a whole lot of padding, because the padding gets in the way. So you almost have to reach out. When you land on your heel with an outstretched leg and locked joints, your ankle and your hip, the force that normally gets absorbed by these springs that you have from the waist down, muscles, ligaments, and tendons in your hips, ankles, knees, legs, etc. Instead, that force just goes straight through the joints, and it arguably will. One of the places it's going to hit is going to be your hip, because if you've got a straight leg, you just jammed your hip socket into your hip. So you're also jamming your knee together, you're jamming your ankle together, and then that'll radiate up your spine too and can hurt your neck. So and this is research that Daniel Lieberman did out of Harvard back in 2009, I think, that showed that people in regular running shoes hit the ground with more force that goes up their body more than people who are running barefoot.
I mean, and you see people sold on that. They'll get those brand new Asics and New Balance, and they'll tie them up and rock them with their jeans. Personally, people don't ever wear tennis shoes with jeans. Okay, just for everyone's eyes. All right,
except ours. But we make casual shoes too, in the same principle. But ours look good.
Yeah, that's a different thing. But you're also taking care of my foot and letting my foot work better. I'm not jacked up with some, I don't know, high performance foam bouncy tech tennis shoe that's telling me it's doing good for me.
What we do is I'll show you. What we do is flexible enough to let your foot move. So here's our new running shoe. So, I mean, I can roll it into a ball. It's thin enough so you're low to the ground for balance and agility. It's wide enough so your toes can spread and relax. And the sole is designed so you can feel the ground, but still getting some protection. And the sole is durable enough. We back it with a 5,000-mile warranty. That's
better than most tires, man.
Well, that was the inspiration. Is our original sandals were inspired by the sandals that like the Tarahumara Indians make out of used tires. And so when people would say about our original sole, well, how long will it last? We'd say, I don't know. No one's worn out a pair. So we came up with the 5,000-mile sole warranty because of our tire heritage.
I love it. And it's local. You guys are making it here, I assume.
No, actually, we're making our stuff in Asia because you can't make footwear in America. For some of the stuff that we do, they don't make the materials. For some of the stuff that we do, they don't make the molds the way we do them. Over 98% of all footwear is made in Asia. And it's been like that since the 70s. And the odds of it coming back.
Let's be honest, it's business anyway to compete in the market, right? You have to outsource where the rest of the people are for their costs, etc. And if you said you can't get them,
you got to go to where the materials and the talent are, and the materials and the talent don't exist here for what we're doing.
Well, except until you started making them, however many years ago.
Well, but what I mean is that people say things like, "Well, you should make it in America." It's like, no, it's literally not possible for us to do what we do in America. We've talked to everyone who makes the kind of stuff that we make, and they go, we can't do that. Or if we had to try, it would be $1 million to remake all of our molds, and then our cost of goods would go up 3 to 4 times. People go, well, I'd be happy to pay that. It's like, no, you wouldn't.
No, yeah, add that cost to the iPhone, right? If you make it here and see if you'd pay for what it freaking costs. Yeah, I think you're right, man. But the basis of what you're doing, I think, is the best part of it, which is taking care of people's feet, which is what you're going to need your whole life. I mean, it's the thing that moves you around and pushes you around. And that to me is something that I loved. And I can see so much like you're into it. Like for me, I'm definitely going to be ordering my pair to supplement with some Chucks when I'm doing. Now that I live in the desert, I'm going to be doing a lot of rock running and stuff. Is there a certain one that I should order for that kind of stuff?
In fact, we use basically the same sole on most of our products. So it's kind of comical. People bought we came up with a casual canvas shoe, and people would email and go, hey, so I just ran a marathon of these things. Wait, it's not a running shoe. It barely even laces. It's a casual shoe. I just climbed Kilimanjaro. No, it's not a climbing shoe. So people can do whatever they want in pretty much everything we have. So now we're just trying to make things so that people can do the right thing in what they have.
Well, you got to make it last, man, and your feet. I love it. And if there's any Mad Hatter designer that I want behind my shit, I can see how you're into it, running your own experiments. I can see you in the lab going, all right, how the fuck does this get there? That's the fucker I want behind my shoes, designing and taking care of my feet, man.
Yeah, I've actually got some sample material sitting on the table over there. I have a new design idea for a new kind of sandal, and so they sent me a whole bunch of parts so that I could make it and show them what I was talking about because they couldn't figure it out.
See, that's the Mad Hatter, man, the Mad Engineer. If you to close out, man, if you had to give that cognitive rampage, if you will, that you've already given this entire show, but directly related to either your shoes, life, etc., man, unleash that bad boy, man.
Oh man, I'm just going to do the foot thing. So in the same way that we think of natural plus food equals better, natural plus movement equals better. And my goal, of course, is to make natural movement plus Xero Shoes seem like the obvious decision. Right now it is, because there's very few companies doing anything similar to what we're doing, and I think we do it better and more affordably. So the biggest thing is, if I were going to give advice, and it's something that I try to avoid like the plague. But if I were going to give advice, it's listen to when someone says something and you find yourself just nodding your head going, oh, that's true. And check and see what happens if you shake your head and go, wait, let me just check and see, is there another way to get to that same goal that they're leaving out? Or are there times where that same starting point leads to a different goal? And is there times where a different starting point leads to a different goal? I mean, what's the whole matrix of possibilities if I didn't just shake my head because someone in a seeming position of authority told me something?
Spoken like a true one, man. I would agree. Question it all and question everything, including ourselves, and especially what that little glowing blue light TV tells you to do.
I like it.
I love it, man. And so it's xeroshoes.com, right? With an X?
Yep. Xeroshoes.com.
Oh, man. Anywhere else or anything else people should check out or be on the lookout? You've kind of covered a lot, but anything else?
Find us on social media. We're Xero Shoes everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do things that are both educational and entertaining. And our goal is to have fun and change the world.
Yeah, man.
So we'd like people on board with that.
Well, you're changing people's feet, man. That's the best way. Or you still doing stand-up anywhere, man? I'd love to come watch you do your thing.
Nah.
All right. I'm gonna get booed a couple more times, man, before I hang that shit up, man.
Have a good time.
Oh yeah, it is, brother. But thank you so much for coming on and spreading the foot knowledge, man, and talking even about life, man. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You come back again sometime?
Whenever. Just give me a shout.
Say when, as Doc Holliday would say. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, brother, man. Thanks again. Thanks for coming on, Stephen. See you, buddy.